He's one of our favorites, and he's Ryan Leaf, Pac-12 network analyst, former NFL quarterback. Of course, gave us one of the great pieces of memorabilia in this man cave, the Ryan Leaf Colts jersey. Now, for those who don't know the background on this, Ryan, if he was going to be drafted number 1 overall by the Colts, that was the jersey they were giving him. He shot promos, I guess. They gave him the jersey, had the jersey, and then he, of course, was drafted number 2 by the Chargers. And then Peyton Manning was drafted number 1 overall. So that's the jersey he would have been given on draft day had he been selected by the Colts.
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly how I got it back, but when I did, and I was talking to Paulie about it, he's like, dude, that would look great in our man cave. And I was like, I'm not doing anything with it. So yeah, why not? And it's always been fun, no matter what. The ups and downs, I always can go to the mainstay of the Dan Patrick Show and the Leaf Colts jersey hanging there.
There are so many looks second, like a double take when people come in and go, wait, Ryan Leaf Colts jersey? And then you explain it to them and they're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else would want it in their man cave, but we love it, and it'll be prominently displayed when we.
Well, that was my question. That was my question.
Oh, yeah. The Leaf Colts jersey prominently displayed. That's a 1 seat of memorabilia in here.
I appreciate that.
That's up there on the list. All right. By the way, Ryan works as a program ambassador for Transcend Recovery in Los Angeles, chairs the Focused Intensity Foundation, dedicated to removing the financial barrier to treatment. He's also hosting a new docuseries called Bust, which looks at the emotionally damaging power of expectations and the trials faced by athletes as they attempt to recover from their sporting disappointments. And you know this as well as anybody, and we've documented this throughout the years, down through the years of addiction to pain pills, being in jail, the expectation of being a second quarterback taken overall. And look at you now. You got a child, MacGyver. You got a wonderful woman in your life, and everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's life, though, right? There's still things that happen, and there's adversity. I think that's always been the biggest problem, is that I saw it as failure or success. There wasn't that even ground of like, hey, I had a tough day, but I'm doing the right things moving forward. It's interesting being in the broadcasting world now. That has been an interesting concept, working with SiriusXM and the other networks and things like that, because what essentially I'm doing now is I'm telling a story rather than being the story. Yeah. And I really enjoy that part of it.
Well, what would you say at the NFL Rookie Symposium?
Well, I usually walk in and I tend to say to the young men that are playing football that just because you're a great athlete doesn't make you a good person. And I think that's lost a lot of times, where you just assume that you're on TV all the time and people admire you and you're on a pedestal. Hey, I can do no wrong. But usually elite athletes have one of the most fragile psyches there are. And when it goes bad in a hurry. It's this ability to overcome those things. And those that do that are super successful. And we watch it happen every single. Tom Brady's the perfect example of that. I mean, he's easily an example of that, but he's had to overcome so much adversity and then put himself in a position to be better year in, year out.
But at some point, people, if they saw you, they would be laughing at you, not with you. And then to get over that hurdle to say, I want to be laughing with you about this. How long does that take?
It took forever, right? I mean, it took me to the bottom, right? I didn't even figure that out until I was in prison, right? And I was helping other people, and it had nothing to do with me, right? And I knew that when I got out, that was going to kind of have to be the foundation of who I was. Otherwise, I was going to be resentful of everybody. Yeah. I was going to be so worried about what other people think. And that was a big part of it. I use an affirmation every morning in the mirror. I've been doing it for about 4 years now. What other people think of me is none of my business. And it took a long time for that to burrow itself into my brain. And I understand it, and I completely understand it now. Hey, it's what I did. It's not who I am. I got this other life. And I want to help others who have gone through similar things like I have. And that's what we're doing with the docuseries Bust. It's simply... I want examples of guys who made it through the fire, and I want examples of guys who are still struggling with that.
Who are some of the names that you're going to feature?
Well, I assume that you venture into my story just to help and make those individuals relate. Now, it's always worrisome on who you're going to get to be a part of it, right?
Is Johnny Manziel close to? Is he a bust?
Well, I think the word associates with that. Some people have brought to me the idea of Dale Earnhardt Jr. as a bust. having never won a cup title, but it was the most famous.
Yeah.
It's all different what people interpret a bust is. The word gave me it's such an angry word. And it's weird to think that way because the Hall of Fame, you have busts.
Yeah.
And then you go to the opposite side of it and it's a failure. So I want to dive into that. I want to dive into the individuals that may still be struggling with it, but those who did come through it well, and I want to understand why. So maybe we can teach somebody who deals with this. I mean, a football career is very fleeting, right? I mean, mine lasted 4 years. The average is like 2.5. It's over in a hurry. You may be 25 years old. And if you don't have another purpose, if your identity is tied into only that, the transition is terribly difficult. And we see it all the time. Also,
when you're drafted, who was drafted before you or after you also factors in as well. Because anybody who was drafted, Sam Bowie was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan.
Right.
And we just remembered that Greg Oden was drafted ahead of Kevin Durant. If Peyton Manning wasn't as successful as he was, would you be less of a bust?
Probably. I mean, when you're drafted alongside arguably the greatest to ever play, that does it. The innovation of the internet at the time, I'm kind of dating myself here. It just had come out, viral videos, things like that became this, that, or the other. So I do think that had something to play into it. The fact that we were so closely compared to at the time, I think is a huge compliment. I do take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
And it was all on me. You can't blame anybody else.
You might have been more talented coming out of college than Peyton.
I've probably said that. I mean, athletically talented, but it's not necessary. Everybody who makes it to that level is talented.
But, Peyton's edge was his mental ability to beat you.
What you do from Sunday to Sunday, that's the key in the NFL. I got away with it in college, being able to not necessarily be Saturday to Saturday because my talent was good enough at the time. But when you get to the NFL, it's the best players from every collegiate team you're playing, and it doesn't get easier. It gets harder.
He's Ryan Leaf, the Pac-12 network analyst, and, of course, the former NFL quarterback. All right, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, what are you doing?
Well, I think they already did it. They took a big leap of faith by hiring Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, that's huge. A guy that just got fired from a collegiate job is now your new head coach. So I think they already did that. And that means they have to draft Kyler Murray. And that means they have to move Josh Rosen some way, somehow. They're waiting.
Now, why do you have to?
Because they put all their eggs in the basket of Cliff Kingsbury and what offense he brings to the table. And Kyler Murray is exactly that. He's the hybrid of Lincoln Riley and what Cliff Kingsbury does. Josh Rosen probably could find a way to fit into it, but it's different. And why, if you had the opportunity, if you're jumping into this full-fledged, as the Arizona Cardinals simply are, why don't you go and get the guy that Cliff Kingsbury knows he needs and wants? I mean, it's a leap of faith. Go all in. Either go all in or I don't know what you're doing if you're not doing that.
But it feels like the Cardinals are saying to the rest of the NFL, hey, we're not quite sure yet. So we really value Josh Rosen. And if you value him, you got to give us a first-round pick. I think it feels like they're holding on to their leverage, and there's really no leverage there. That is somebody going to pony up a first-round pick for Josh Rosen?
I don't think anybody's going to pony up a first-round pick.
Who should go get him?
I think the Giants should. I think it would be great if the Giants went and got him and then were able to use that 6th and 17th pick on a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman. I don't know if that could happen and they could have Saquon Barkley and the quarterback they probably should have drafted a year ago. I think it would be a real win moving forward for them. And that in a place right now where Gettleman's kind of telling everybody, taking on that $21 million in dead money this year, hey, we're not going to be good this year.
John Harbaugh, the Ravens head coach, came out and said the Browns are the most talented team in the division, which I thought was brilliant on his part. Hey, shine all your lights over there and your microphones. Focus on the Browns while we just continue to do what we do, and Pittsburgh's going to do what they do. Is Cleveland the most talented team in the AFC North?
They're super talented. It's just you wonder, are all those egos together under a head coach that has no experience? Is that going to change? Or is it just going to be like a dumpster fire when things start to go bad? Because it's still the Cleveland Browns, right? I mean, they're systematic to this, where there's always been issues. I would love to see it happen. I was thoroughly impressed with Baker Mayfield a year ago and what he was able to do. And when you put those kind of weapons around him.
But how do you keep everybody happy?
That's the key.
Because Odell Beckham wants to show the world, I'm still the baddest dude in the NFL. And so he needs his targets because he can't showcase his talents and he can't rub it into the Giants unless you throw him the ball.
Well, we just saw that go down in Pittsburgh with Antonio Brown. Just if you're not getting your touches or you're not feeling, caressed the right way while you're there, things become a problem. We've seen in the NBA being able to kind of hang together a bunch of stars. We haven't necessarily seen it in the NFL, at least successful NFL teams. The New England Patriots, they get rid of people. Tom Brady's the key, but they've been able to move on from there. This seems like a dream team. It really does. For all the millennials out there and everybody who watches through social media and stuff, these type of individuals that are playing for the Cleveland Browns are exactly what the youngsters are all watching. And they're thinking, best team in the NFL. They should win. They should be on Monday Night Football every week mentality. But I'm going to wait and see, like everybody else should. They should wait and see because I still think the Pittsburgh Steelers are still the dominant force in that division, regardless of what down.
I do too. I think that we sort of go, well, they lost to Antonio Brown and they lost Le'Veon Bell. They're the Steelers.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason why they're always, in the hunt there. Ben Roethlisberger getting a lot of criticism. I know that we talk about leaders and we kind of throw that out there like he's a leader. Like, I don't know what a leader is in today's sports world. I know what it used to be, but it feels like you can lead by just example or you can lead by words. But then if you don't play well, but you're a leader with your words, then do they still respect you? Like, I'm trying to figure out where Ben is in all of this. How much does he create and how much is he just a victim here?
I think the second part of that, leading and not necessarily playing that well right now, could be attributed to Eli Manning. He's still this amazing leader, and they love him in the clubhouse or in the locker room. With Ben Roethlisberger, they've always won. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been the dominant force in the AFC North for the most part, battling with the Baltimore Ravens. But they've been winning. And this was the first time where you really saw cracks. And when you lose, the magnifying glass just shows up. You could be actually one of the worst teammates, but if you contribute and you play well and you show up and you're there, I think the biggest takeaway about Ben Roethlisberger is he's played injured. And in the NFL, that is like the Bronze Star, right? You play injured, you show up, you're a leader. That's how people look at it. And he has. He showed up and he's played and he's played and he's played and he plays with that kind of style that teammates really love. But right now they're losing and they had cracks in the cement. The locker room was discussed a lot outside of the locker room, which has never been the case in Pittsburgh. Yeah. The whole Antonio Brown drama, that said a lot. Now, that would be my only worry, unless by kind of pushing these things away, they've reinstituted that focus, and now they're in a position to have Ben Roethlisberger really lead that ball club.
Other quarterbacks you like in this draft?
Definitely Dwayne Haskins. I think Drew Lock has stepped up. His workout was exceptional. People are even throwing him in the possibility of being a top 10 pick. And it's always that worry from general managers that they have that FOMO, the fear of missing out on the franchise quarterback, because that's going to be the answer. What I found that has happened recently is that you've gone out and found a durable and a competent quarterback, and they're on that rookie contract, and you're able to go out and build around you. I'm interested to see when Jared Goff's contract comes up. I'm pretty sure they're going to pay Patrick Mahomes just because what he's done. But you watch some of these large contracts that are weighing teams down, the inability to go out and surround somebody like Aaron Rodgers with that huge contract with the type of players he needs, because he just can't do it himself. That you're going to see maybe that fifth-year option coming up and teams just going, hey, we had our chance, we had our run, let's go back, reload, find a quarterback in the draft and build around it again and try to make that run. It will be interesting to see how that moves along. I think Dwayne Haskins is one of those guys you can pick up, and he can be a Dak Prescott where he gets into a situation, does really well, and then you have to make a choice when that fifth year comes. Is this our guy? What does that mean nowadays when you lose so much money because they're being paid so much that you can't go out and grab a Aqib Talib or Ndamukong Suh and place that defense together and make a Super Bowl run?
When the Raiders get to Las Vegas, is Derek Carr their quarterback?
I have a thought that he may not be the quarterback this year even.
I think if they could get Kyler Murray, they would get him. Like that, if you could say to Gruden, it's going to cost you 3 ones, and you can get him, that Gruden would go all in on him.
I'm still a little hesitant about Kyler Murray, and not because of what a great talent he is. He's slight in size, and that's always going to be the issue for him. But you make the comparison. I was the prototypical NFL quarterback at 6'5", 230 pounds, and I was a bust, right? So I'm just a little hesitant. If John Gruden were to go do that, that would be, I don't know if that would fill in with his plan, his blueprint, his plan that he has in place on what he's trying to do, the Khalil Mack trade, the Mari Cooper trade, all the stuff.
But he's got a rookie quarterback contract there. You got a face going into Vegas with him and Antonio Brown. Oh, come on. That's what, I mean, Gruden's a horrible poker player. Like, he loves Kyler Murray.
I think any rookie quarterback, I think if he went out and got, I mean, I know Kyler Murray would be a big splash, but I think if he went out and was able to find and get a rookie quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, one of those guys, I feel like he feels he could make that work. I just don't know if it's going to be Derek Carr. And in particular, like you talked about, that contract is huge. He got that huge deal.
Yeah, I don't think that he's their quarterback. But I think that if they can get, I think they're going to try to go up, or maybe they're going to use that top 5 pick. And maybe they go in on Haskins before the Giants do.
The interesting idea about this draft, and I had somebody tell me recently that this draft is so fully loaded defensively that if only defensive players were drafted from 1 till 32, where in New England's picking, they would still get a unbelievable defensive player in pick number 32. That's how deep it is.
I don't want to take a quarterback because I need a quarterback. I have to take the quarterback who's the right. The drafts are littered with GMs who go, "Oh my God, we got to get our quarterback. We'll take Christian Ponder. We'll take Blaine Gabbert." And you're going, "No, that shouldn't be the way it works."
But it is, because you believe in the fact that we pay our franchise quarterbacks so much money and are the face of the franchise that you have to go and get it. We've seen in the playoffs, and we've seen, I mean, Tom Brady, of course, is the utter example of, but he also he finds ways to make his contract different so they can pay differently, right? He's not the highest paid player in the NFL. He's still a very highly paid quarterback. But when they pay all that money, the opportunity to go find those other players is limited. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers, I think, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league right now. And I don't think anybody will argue with that. I just don't know if they'll ever win again. I don't know if they're going to be able to put players around him good enough to show that.
Yeah,
talent.
They lost Randall Cobb. I thought they were going to maybe go after Antonio Brown. It's just, you sort of look at the Packers as half full, half empty.
We'll see what they do with the draft. I think there's a couple receivers that are probably tangible opportunities for them, but the draft is always a crapshoot. This year, it's really defensive laden. I think it's going to be very big on that early on.
He's Ryan Leaf. It's always great to see you. Congratulations on all your success. And where are you off to next?
We got to get back to the city tonight and do some work, and then I'm headed down to Florida. The NFL. If you'd have told me this 4 years ago, that the NFL would come to me and say, "Ryan, will you be a representative of our NFL Legends community, where we help retirees and players transition out?" I would have told you were crazy, and what an honor. I found that out this last week, so I'm headed down there for a summit this week with Tracy Perlman and Chad Pennington, Mark Brunell, those types of guys that have helped players transition. They helped me transition when I didn't feel like, and this happened when we were in San Francisco, when I was out of prison for a year and I didn't want to be in the public eye, and you had me on the show and things changed. I went into this lounge called the NFL Legends Lounge, and I walked in and I saw immediately 4 former teammates of mine, and they all came up to me and just wrapped their arms around me because I felt like I didn't belong with any of them, right? Because I felt like I was a failure. And I walked into that room and they told me, "We're all legends. We made it to the NFL." You know how hard that is? And I took Chad Pennington's hand. He walked me around, introduced me to everybody. They put their arm around me, and this has kind of been the journey. And what I've been doing for the last 4 years when it's come to the recovery community, I'm now going to get to do really in my peer group, because I don't want anybody else who played in this league to ever feel like they're less than or be as miserable as I was at that time. So that's a great honor.
And the reaction that you always get in those first couple of appearances, and hopefully that opens some people's eyes to who you are and what you are as a person, because I think everybody had that impression, that image of you, and they weren't quite sure if it was real or not. And hopefully you're getting these opportunities because you came clean in a variety of ways.
When you're transparent and vulnerable, and I never thought that was a strength. I always thought that was like, I needed to be guarded. I can't let anybody see what I considered weakness, right? And I had changed because I was forced to change, and I had been of service to others. And when I came on your show that day, it was just, I kind of just peeled down those bricks from that wall, and we had a conversation where like, no, I didn't know anybody else was listening. I was just talking to you.
Yeah.
And it changed my life because people got to see that. But I also had to back it up, right?
Yeah.
There couldn't ever be.
Hey, I was skeptical.
Everybody should have been.
I heard it and I went, I've been around this before. And you've lived up to it, and hopefully there's great things down the road for you. It's always great to see you.
Awesome to see you guys.
He's Ryan Leaf.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.